Hey, it's Colleen.
Hi, it's Kate.
And it's Megan.
And we're the
Three Scheme Queens. Join us as we discuss popular hoaxes and give you our comedic take on what is fact and what is fiction. If you have a sense of humor and an open mind, come take this journey with us.
We'll tell you what we think, and we'll try to prove it to you.
Is this thing on?
Hey, guys.
Welcome back.
Welcome back to another fun episode hosted by your faves.
This is a poll for the audience because I'm feeling attacked.
Oh. No, it's attacking you.
Says the type 8s. When you guys are thinking or when people are talking to you, are you thinking in strictly words? Do you have visuals going on? What's going on in your
The
head?
question is, when you think, do you think in pictures or do you think in words?
I feel like I think in both. Like it's a picture book.
But
like
you
there's
don't.
pictures and then words underneath it.
But you don't have a constant dialogue going on in your head.
No, I'm always talking in my head.
Oh, or didn't you?
I have a constant dialogue.
So do
Yeah.
I. I thought earlier you said you did not have a dialogue.
Oh, no. My brain doesn't stop talking.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's so loud and it's just so annoying sometimes.
And you
that's
can't
like
scream.
And sometimes I just want to sit in a quiet room because I've heard enough.
I definitely feel at the end of my workday that my social battery is drained.
Yeah.
And I have to like not speak to anybody
Yeah.
for a couple hours to like recharge.
Okay. But sometimes my brain is just so tired.
Mhm.
And then if there are other people around me that are talking, and then I also have this running thought process in my head, it just feels loud.
That I don't know if you guys notice this. Sometimes I have a hard time following conversations.
Yeah.
And I think it's because half the time I find my dialogue in my head either moves on faster than the conversation or is more interesting than the conversation. Not more interesting, but like I'm just like, oh, look over there. Look, over
It's called
there.
inattentive ADHD.
Yeah.
Kate, you're my age.
Yeah.
Do you watch TV with subtitles on?
When I want to pay attention.
Yeah.
I can't even like process their word without subtitles.
Yeah. So I
don't know what they're saying.
I can't, which I think is like older people. You're not old, but like people of our generation.
It's an ADHD thing, though.
Well, I got my hearing checked, and she was like, "Your hearing is fine. It's your ability to like to remove the other sounds from the room and focus on what you want to hear. That's the issue." And I'm like, we're too young for that.
For me, when I'm watching a movie and I'm trying to pay attention, sometimes the dialogue sounds like that YouTube video where it's like what English sounds like to non-English speakers. Like they're talking, but it just sounds like gibberish.
Like you have some receptive
until
aphasia.
until I have the words to line up. Which is, I also correlate that to why I cannot understand song lyrics until I've read the lyric and listened to the song.
Oh.
You guys get like that?
No, I only really put on so whenever I'm watching like House of the Dragon or
God, that one's hard.
Wheel of Time or something like that. Like that's
What's Wheel of Time?
It's another
nerd show.
Fantasy show. It shows that I think require like you don't know exactly like the words they're saying because they're in different like fantastical lore. That's like when I like to watch it with the dialogue on the screen, so I know like the spelling, how to say it, all of that. But in normal everyday television, I don't have to watch the subtitles. But also I don't watch a lot of TV. So
yeah, you don't really have a lot of screen time.
What I was referencing when I said that people on the spectrum think in pictures is like they were like during test, they don't pick out the information, from their head. Like what they do is they look back in their memory, and it's like picture shots of things, and
I
like
do think like that.
and the picture from like the book.
I do think like that. Anyways, to sum up this yapping session, that's what TikTok calls it now. We're just girls who yap. I wanted to know what the audience.
Megan didn't like that.
No, I don't understand. Is that what TikTok calls podcasts? Girls
No,
Chat?
like whenever girls get together and talk a lot.
Andrew always says the hens are clucking.
And
Yeah.
they're clucking. I
Yap
like
session.
that.
That's what TikTok says. We're having a yap sesh.
I love a yap session.
I'm into it.
Yeah.
Anyways, I wanted to know what everybody else thought. Am I crazy?
Let us know.
Let us know.
Where can they let us know, Megan?
Guys, just a reminder, don't forget to check out our Facebook and Instagram pages at 3 Scheme Queens. That's the number 3 Scheme Queens, all one word. We're also on Reddit, same username. If you want to check out our website, go to 3schemequeens.com and you can find links to our social media accounts, our Buzzsprout page, all of our episodes, additional content, our contact page, and our discussion board where you can engage with us and share any updates on the topics that we have discussed. Let us know how we're doing and what you want to hear next. There are also opportunities to financially support us. There are links to buy us a cup of coffee, links to our recently updated merch store, and affiliate links. And as always, if you choose not to financially support us, we appreciate the follows, the downloads, listens, the likes. Kate, what should the people do?
Scrolling down, leave us a 5-star review, leave us a comment, share us with your friends and family, share us on your social media. And thanks for everything, guys.
Yeah. So is it time for our
Drink check.
today? It's been feeling like, what do they call it, false fall out there.
Yeah,
False
it was
fall?
like false fall, and now it's
Oh.
freaking summer again.
So hot out there.
So annoying. I thought like we had some cooler mornings. It was like 50 degrees. It was brought out the fleece.
Mhm.
I was ready for it. Wah wah.
Just a cold front.
Today, since it was a hot day,
Yeah.
we are having a recipe I got from Captain Fred.
Oh.
Okay, good.
We are having bourbon slushy.
Oh my gosh, it's so
So good.
good.
Yeah. It's
We need
refreshing.
the
So
recipe.
good.
Was there enough ice there?
It was all ice. It was like a slushy.
It was-
Like you could scoop it with a spoon slushy.
Yeah.
Slush. It was like slush.
It was good. Colleen was like, "How much bourbon is in this?"
Oh, it is. Well, I mean, I finished mine already
Yeah.
during the yap sesh.
The recipe comes from Southern Living. We'll post it on the website.
Oh, thanks, Southern Living.
Today, we're talking Tupac.
I don't think
A little.
I could name a single
I
song.
wake up in the
Dear
morning and
mama.
ask myself, is life worth living? Should I blast myself?
I don't think I've heard a single Tupac
I
song.
got to get paid. Well, hey, well, that's the way it is. Do-do-do.
Don't know that song.
I can't wait to hear what Colleen has to say about this because when I was researching it, I messaged her and Kate and I said something about Puff Daddy and Colleen said,
Who?
"Who is Puff Daddy?"
I'm sorry, Tanisha. This was a shout out to Tanisha.
Oh yeah, Tanisha has
That's
asked
a
us to
shout
do
out Our Lady.
Tupac.
Yeah, today
Via email, she requested this.
Today, we're talking Tupac. This was a listener request. And yeah.
I'd like to formally apologize to all our listeners who were adults in the 90s.
Well, we weren't adults in the 90s.
How old were you?
How old do you think? It's like Patch the other day. He's like, we were talking about specials, and he's like,
were you
Mom,
older than
he's like,
17?
Mom didn't have Mommy did not have technology when she was in
Yeah.
elementary school. I was like, Patch, I had computer lab. How old do you think I was?
Yeah, but not like them. Do they all make their own iPads and
Yeah,
stuff?
he's
Yeah,
probably
no.
never seen a floppy disk in his life.
No.
He's never played Oregon Trail.
Oh,
Oh.
no. I loved
I
Oregon
played that
Trail. You know what I like?
time 2 years ago.
Zumbinis. You ever play the Zumbinis?
Uh-uh.
Oh my gosh, I love the Zumbinis.
So, for anyone Colleen's age, let me tell you about Tupac, okay?
Tupac.
Tupac Shakur was one of the most iconic figures in hip hop and is remembered for his powerful lyrics and outspoken views on social issues. His music often addressed themes such as racial inequality, violence, and his own struggles, resonating deeply with fans around the world. Beyond music, Tupac also had a career in acting, appearing in films like Juice, Poetic Justice, and Above the Rim. Tupac's life was tragically cut short when he was shot in a drive-by shooting in Las Vegas on September 7th, 1996, before you were even born.
Before she was born.
He died from his injuries 6 days later on September 13th, 1996, at the age of 25. The circumstances surrounding his death have led to numerous theories and speculations involving potential connections to gang rivalries, personal disputes, and even alleged involvement by law enforcement or other figures within the music industry. Despite investigations and various theories, no one has been convicted in connection with his murder.
Oh.
Almost 30 years later, the case remains unsolved.
Cold, if you will.
It is cold, but you know what? Might be heating up. We got an update.
Oh, update.
But anyway, as a result, many people theorize that Tupac faked his own death. Believers point to Tupac's music and public statements, which often included themes of mortality and resilience, which they allege support such conjectures. What really happened to Tupac on September 7th, 1996?
Oh.
Okay, guys. So what do you think about what happened to Tupac? Do you think he's alive? Do you think he's dead? Who do you think killed him?
Oh, I got no idea who killed Tupac, but I don't think he's alive.
Okay. Colleen, do you have an opinion?
I don't really know anything about what happened to him.
Okay.
I don't even know, like,
Okay.
like government people trying to fight the fact that he is like a representative for people.
I think it was gang related,
Or
probably.
yeah, I think I'm probably leaning more towards gang related.
Okay. All right. So let's start with the players. Colleen's already got a lot of questions about Tupac.
Yeah.
So,
Gangs.
so let's start with the players here.
Okay.
Okay.
And
Players.
obviously the biggest one
Tupac.
is
Tupac.
Tupac.
Second player, Biggie.
Is
He's on there.
Yeah.
actually Tupac or his show name's Tupac?
No, his name is Tupac, and I'm going to tell you where that came from. Okay?
Oh, I didn't know that his real name was Tupac.
Yeah. So he sometimes show name spells it Tupac,
Like the number 2?
Like the number 2.
but it's Tupac. But his friends and family call him Pac.
Pac. I feel like I hear fans call him Pac.
Maybe.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So Tupac Shakur was born on June 16th, 1971.
Okay.
East Harlem, New York.
Gemini.
Oh yeah, I texted you guys about this because I was watching the documentary Dear Mama,
Uh-huh.
and his aunt. They were talking about if he had mental health issues, which I think he did. We'll talk
Okay.
about that.
Okay.
But and she was like, no. Probably what you're seeing is the Gemini in him, where he'll be like really outgoing and then he's like depressed. And
Yeah.
like maybe just his two faces.
Yeah.
And I only know that is what a Gemini means because I'm friends with you girls.
Yay!
Oh, I'm proud of us.
So he was born in East Harlem, New York City, to political activists and Black Panther members.
Ooh.
This is where
Black Panther.
This is where I'm going to admit my very poor education on anything that happened in America after like 1930. I had no idea what the Black Panthers were. I only knew of the Marvel character.
It always goes back to Marvel.
Wakanda forever.
So
That was good.
I don't know much about the Marvel Black Panthers, but the Black
There's only one.
Yeah.
I just got so offended.
I was like, wrong. One Black Panther.
Okay. Well, so this Black Panther party was big in like the 60s and 70s. So in theory, like they had good ideas. In theory, they were fighting for like, equal
Civil
rights
yeah.
and better treatment
Right.
and all of that. But they were also influenced by like Marxist thought.
Oh, mm-hmm.
And they would get a little extreme and violent at times. Like root of the ideas were all good, but it just
Maybe
got a little...
they were perceived to be violent, or were they actually violent?
Probably dependent on who wrote.
I think there was a little of both.
Okay.
But there was definitely the government was trying to shut them down. And
Okay.
here's an interesting fact I learned.
Oh.
Okay. So he was born to these Black Panther members.
Okay.
Mom and his dad.
And one of them was his mom. Yeah, I'm going to tell you about the parentage because it's a little complicated. But his mom actually, they're living in New York, and she was like, these hospitals are turning away uninsured Black people. That's not cool. So she partnered with a doctor at one of these hospitals, and they wrote what we now use as our patient rights.
Oh,
If you go to a hospital, you have to sign a form. It's like, these are your rights. You have the right to
yeah.
care, so whatever.
Yeah.
And really, Afeni Shakur, Tupac's mom, is responsible for that.
Whoa, that's so
Really good
cool.
fun fact. What's her name again?
Afeni.
Afeni. I'm going to
Afeni.
tell you about the name. Yeah.
Wow, her name should be in more things.
Yeah. So his mom, Afeni, again, was a Black Panther, and she was arrested as part of the Panther 21. The Panther 21 refers to a group of 21 members of the Black Panther Party who were arrested in 1969 and charged with conspiracy to bomb various locations in New York City. There was kind of, in one of the documentaries, there was a kind of funny quote from one of the other Black Panther members that the government was like tapping them when they were trying to shut them down, and they did a lot of marijuana. And
Yeah.
they would refer to pot as like Brother Rugi. And so when they arrested all these people and they had all these indictments and stuff,
for Brother
they were
Rugi.
looking for Brother Rugi as well. And I kind of thought
That is so funny. They could not figure out what it
Joke's
was.
on you,
Yeah.
So these arrests for the Panther 21 were made in the context of like heightened tensions and confrontation to the Black Panther Party and law enforcement. So while these 21 Black Panthers are on trial, they're like, you know what, we need to start raising money to get these 21 members out. So they saved up enough money for bail for one member at first. And they said, you know who we want out? We want Afeni out. It's Tupac's mom, because she'll be the most beneficial in helping with our defense.
Support. Yeah.
So they got Afeni out. She had no law background. Well, she acted in her own defense, defended her fellow Panthers. So this happened in 1969, and Tupac is born in June 1971. But in like all the old documentaries I watched, Tupac and like other people they act like Afeni was 9 months pregnant when they arrested her, but
she was nowhere near pregnant.
No. So they slowly are able to bail out more and more people as they keep raising money, but Afeni was the first, and she's like working on her defense. In the meantime, she gets pregnant with Tupac, and then I guess there was some plan where they decided one day, these like 21 people, that they weren't going to show up for court, but no one included Afeni in that. So Afeni shows up for court, and they're like, you're under arrest because where are the we're revoking everyone's bail because they were no shows.
Yeah.
At this point, she does go back to prison while she's awaiting the trial, and she is pregnant with Tupac at that point.
Okay.
But, good news. The defendants, including Tupac's mom, were all acquitted of over 150 charges. And again, thanks in large part to Afeni, who didn't even have a law degree. So she gets out, and then she gives birth to Tupac. Now, Afeni was the second wife, like we're talking like sister wife here, okay, of Lumumba Shakur. He was the head of the Black Panthers. After Tupac's birth, Lumumba discovers that he isn't the father.
Oh!
So that dissolves that marriage. Tupac was initially named Lashane Parrish Crooks, but when he was a year old, Tupac's mom changed her name to Afeni Shakur, so she took Shakur from her husband, and then she named Tupac.
So who's his dad?
We'll get there. You're jumping ahead. Okay. He became Tupac Amaru Shakur. Tupac Amaru was the name of a martyr, a descendant of the last Incan ruler who led the Peruvian peasants in an unsuccessful rebellion against the Spanish. Shakur's mom explained, quote, I wanted him to have the name of revolutionary indigenous people in the world. I wanted him to know he was a part of a world culture and not just from a neighborhood.
Afeni seems like a very smart woman. I would have liked to meet her. Is she still alive?
She died.
Oh.
So, Colleen, you asked me who Tupac's dad really was, right?
Who's the father?
So Tupac's real father was Billy Garland. He was another Black Panther. He was never part of Tupac's life until he saw him on TV when Tupac was 20 years old, and then he reaches out to him. So
awful.
In the meantime, Afeni marries Mutulu Shakur.
Okay.
So Mutulu Shakur is of no relation to her husband.
Okay. Yeah.
But I guess a lot of people adopted the last name Shakur because their leader's last name was Shakur.
How do you spell Shakur?
Shakur.
Okay.
So Mutulu is really kind of the father figure that Tupac knew, but he spent much of Tupac's early life in prison. So Mutulu actually spent 4 years as one of the FBI's 10 most wanted. Afeni gave birth to Tupac's half-sister before the couple divorced in 1982. So I just sorry, as a girl who watched a lot of America's Most Wanted growing up,
Right.
a lot of cops, a lot of unsolved mysteries, and a
Cops
lot
are
of
good.
America's Most Wanted.
Yeah.
Okay?
This
Watch
this
Dirty Jobs.
all
American Pickers.
tracked.
Yeah.
Wait, what did you watch?
Dirty Jobs, American Pickers, Gold Rush, and then the Zombie Show,
Yeah, that
Walking
also
Dead.
tracks.
Yeah.
Oh, that's so
And
funny.
Austin Powers.
We watched a lot of Sports Center,
But
Yeah.
this tracks.
Monday Night Football.
This
Whoa,
tracks.
is this how this molded us?
Thank you, Kate. Today I was thinking about this. Did you watch TGIF?
Yes,
What's TGIF?
Every Friday.
the best.
Step by step. Family
Boy Meets
Matters,
World.
Boy Meets World. Sabrina the
These were
Teenage
all
Yeah.
like
Yeah, they it was like
marathon.
2 hours that started at 8 p.m. It went from 8 to 10, and every family would like go home and watch it together.
And it was just like
It was
It's
like family
30
programming.
minute sitcoms.
Yeah.
But they'd also have they'd be like, NSYNC is guest starring today.
Yeah.
NSYNC would be on Sabrina or whatever.
Were they like new episodes?
Yeah.
Yeah, every week.
Okay, guys, the reason we got distracted by what we watched is because I just want to share this fun side story because it feels very
Oh, we didn't
America's
even get
Most
to the
Wanted.
side story yet.
No. So Tupac Shakur, who was again the stepfather of Tupac, kind of the one father figure he sort of had in his life.
Yep.
He was in and out of jail. He then became one of America's Most Wanted in 1981
Mm-hmm.
after robbing a Brinks armored truck during which a police officer and guard were killed.
Oh my goodness.
Brutal.
He flees. He's on the list. 1986, he is finally apprehended and he is convicted.
Whoa.
Okay, so in the meantime, 1984, Afeni is struggling with a cocaine addiction. So she takes the kids to Baltimore, where they live for 3 years. Shocker, Baltimore, not a great place to live if you've got a drug habit.
Yeah, that is so surprising, Megan.
Mhm.
I had no idea.
And this is where Tupac famously attended the Baltimore School for the Arts with Biffle Jada Pinkett.
Oh,
Smith?
Yeah.
Jada Pinkett Smith was his biffle?
They date?
Apparently, she says no. So while there, he studied acting, poetry, jazz, and ballet. He performed in Shakespeare's plays, and he was the Mouse King in The Nutcracker.
I
So,
love the Nutcracker.
so her addiction persists, and she eventually relocates the family to Marin County in California, where he attended high school, and he was still a theater kid. He eventually dropped out, but he did earn his GED. He and his mom had a pretty strained relationship because of all this drug use, but spoiler alert, fast forward, she does eventually get clean, and they do mend fences. And that's where the song
Dear Mama.
Dear Mama comes from, one of Kate's favorites. So Tupac's early career included his work with the group Digital Underground. He was actually a roadie and a backup dancer first, but it sounds like, again, he had dropped out. His mom was in rehab. He had dropped out, and he's like, I just need work. So he starts as this roadie. And then he gained recognition through his guest appearance on Digital Underground's Same Song in 1991, which helped establish his reputation in music. And as a result, he gets a deal with Interscope Records. His debut solo album, Tupacalypse Now, was released in November of 1991. The same year, he rose to fame in the film Juice. With the influx of cash for the first time in his life, he opened a bank account. One day, he's crossing the street to go to the ATM, and he's arrested for jaywalking.
What?
The arrest was violent and did not fit the crime.
Oh my God.
Someone said on one of them that he developed alopecia as a result of the stress from all of this, and that's why in his later life, he's got a bald head.
Yeah.
That's
so sad.
And so this arrest kind of started a string of arrests and caused him to start to become more outspoken in the press about, equality and injustices.
Yeah.
So between 1991 and 1995, he was arrested 8 times.
Wow.
In 1993, he was charged with assault against 2 off-duty white police officers. In 1984, he was charged with sexual assault against a 19-year-old fan. He was on trial for the sexual assault charge when he entered Quad City Studios in New York City on November 30th, 1994. It's a very pivotal moment, okay?
Okay.
So he's in New York City. He goes into Quad City Studios, and there's a robbery, and he is shot 5 times.
Oh my
God.
goodness.
And live?
Yeah, to be fair,
Where was he shot?
I'm about to tell you.
Okay.
So
To be
lame.
fair, one of those shots was self-inflicted.
Oh.
He had his gun down his pants.
That's funny.
No safety. Shot himself in the nuts while weapon from his
his nuts.
He was
Oh my gosh. How did they fix that?
he ended up leaving AMA
Oh.
to go to court in a wheelchair because he's on trial for the sexual assault case. And apparently they told him, like, if you leave AMA, you risk losing a testicle. And he was like, I got to get to court. So I think he was intact, is like the spoiler to that.
Oh, okay. But maybe not.
I don't know.
Unsure.
It makes me think of 8 Mile, right? When is Cheddar the guy's name?
Yeah.
Who like shoots himself when
Oh,
he's
yeah.
get involved in the gun. Anyway.
Yeah. That's gotta have hurt so bad.
But he blamed a lot of people for this Quad City Studio shooting. We don't actually know who was responsible.
Okay.
But that caused a lot of the tension in his life going forward. It was like accusations he was making against people. So for this sexual assault, though, he was sentenced. He was found guilty. He was sentenced to 1.5 to 4.5 years in prison.
Okay.
So I will say he was found guilty in a court of law. We don't want to question the accuser. But everything I read and looked at, people say that like no one has ever heard of him like mistreating females. Everyone kind of praised his treatment of women. Nobody really believed that he did it. It sounds like what happened is there was a consensual act performed at a club with this girl. And then the fan claimed that he had her in a hotel room and he like didn't let her out and somebody else assaulted her.
Oh.
And he claims that that's not what happened. The rape kit was clean. There was no evidence. There were like no fingerprints. It sounds like there's really not a lot of evidence. Like a lot of the documentaries imply that there was this cultural feel of quote, thug life, and like that's really what this case was about. Like hip hop and him, and not necessarily what actually happened.
Right.
So not really sure what happened, but the allegation was he was acquitted of many of the charges, but not all of them.
Okay.
And the accusation is that he kind of enabled somebody else to sexually assault someone. In 1995, he's released from prison after serving 8 months, thanks in part to a $1.4 million bail paid by Suge Knight. Suge is the head of Death Row Records. So pretty much the story is that Knight offered to finance an appeal in exchange for a 3-record deal.
Oh.
So he gets out of jail.
Okay.
So Suge, let me tell you about Suge. Suge Knight, whose full name is Marion Hugh Knight Jr., was a co-founder and CEO of Death Row Records, a prominent record label in the 90s that played a major role in the rise of gangster rap.
Okay.
In addition to Tupac, Death Row Records was home to influential artists like Dr. Dre and Snoop Dogg.
Nothing. Dr. Dre's dead. He's living in my basement.
His career has been marked by legal troubles, including charges related to violence and criminal activity. In 2015, he was convicted of voluntary manslaughter in a hit-and-run case, resulting in a 28-year prison sentence. He is known to be a member of the Bloods. You guys were asking about
the Blood,
about gang affiliation earlier. There was like a 1990s documentary, or like it was like a news, like a Dateline type thing.
Yeah.
And Vanilla Ice was on it, and he talked.
Ice baby.
Yeah, Colleen, do you know who Vanilla Ice is?
Ice.
She's staring blankly at us.
I mean, stop. Collaborate. And
I mean, I know the song.
Oh,
I don't know
you
who
recognize? He actually had an HGTV show, I think, for a while.
I know the song. I don't know who it is though.
So, Vanilla Ice is this white rapper. He says that he actually left LA because he was afraid of Suge Knight. Apparently, Suge Knight claimed that his friend wrote Ice Ice Baby and was threatening to get him to sign over the rights. He tells a story about being held over a balcony of a ritzy hotel, and then Vanilla Ice was so scared for his life, he signed over the rights. And there's also allegations that Suge Knight threatened Dr. Dre's previous manager to release Dre so that he could.
Wow, this girl is powerful.
What? Yeah. Such Suge.
Just a little mafia action right there.
And then I got 2 other characters I'm gonna just kind of tell you about.
Okay.
And then I'll give you the timeline of what happened.
Okay.
So Notorious B.I.G. Biggie.
Yeah, the Biggie.
Kate, you were talking about it earlier. So Notorious B.I.G. was another popular rapper.
Right. But on the other side, there was a feud.
Isn't there a theory that it's like another hip hop star trying to kill Tupac? Is that Biggie?
Well,
Or is
so
that
Biggie
was
died.
They, like,
Eddie?
They both
Yeah,
died.
they
were
both
enemies,
died
They
pretty
both
quick.
died.
Biggie
Yeah.
died too?
Yeah. So
Yeah. Every single day and
I'll be missing you.
I'll be
Be
missing
That's
you.
about Biggie?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Wow.
So,
The more you learn.
apparently, Biggie asked Shakur to manage him, whereupon Shakur advised him that Puff Daddy would make him a star.
Oh.
So, Puff Daddy.
What was Biggie involved with if he was involved with Puffy? You know what
Yeah.
I mean?
The point is that Shakur and Biggie were buddies. Okay.
Okay.
So they remained buddies, but Shakur is like, I think Puff Daddy will make you a star. You should go with him.
Okay.
Shakur did welcome him to join his group, Thug Life. So, do you remember, like,
Thug
Tupac had Thug Life tattooed on his belly?
Yes.
And again, everyone was like, Thug Life, we're just like teaching these kids. Tupac claims that Thug Life stands for a philosophy that he described as a way to overcome adversity and resist systemic oppression. The acronym
Ooh.
Thug Life is often interpreted as the hate you give little infants fucks everybody. So pretty much what he's saying is that, like, when they talk about Thug Life, he's talking about, like, it's on us within our community to, like, break the cycle and, like, be better, and we
Wow.
need to police ourselves.
I like Tupac.
Yeah.
I like that.
So Biggie instead formed his own side group, the Junior Mafia, which stands for Masters at Finding Intelligent Attitudes. It was formed in the early 90s, and it, I think Lil' Kim was also a
Really?
member of this group.
Really?
Yeah. And so a lot of connections to Bad Boy Records with Puff Daddy.
Okay.
So Tupac and Biggie are buddies. But then when that Quad Studios shooting happened in 94,
Uh-huh.
Biggie had been recording in another studio. And Tupac felt like Biggie was his buddy. Maybe he didn't set up this shooting, but, like, he knew it was coming. And why didn't he give him a heads up?
Oh.
So he actually came out. He made all these public allegations.
He got a little paranoid, if you will.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So he came out, he made all of these public allegations against Biggie. And in fact, like, in his music videos, there's, like, references to, like, Biggie trying to shoot me.
Whoa.
And so that's really, like, the downfall of their
Relationship.
We'll hear about Biggie a little bit later.
Okay.
And then the last person I want to tell you about who's a character in this timeline.
J-Lo.
No.
J-Lo.
Colleen doesn't know about this, that Puff Daddy and J-Lo dated.
Yeah.
And I'm
When
going
he
to
was
tell
still
you
Sean
about
Puffy
Puff
Combs.
Daddy allegedly shot someone in a club and J-Lo was with him.
What?
Mm-hmm.
So Orlando Anderson was a known Crip who was reportedly involved in a robbery at a Foot Locker store where a Death Row Records medallion was stolen from someone. And so on the night of Tupac's death, Tupac actually ran into this guy, recognized him, and had a physical altercation with him.
Ooh.
This fight took place in the lobby of the MGM Grand Hotel in Las Vegas, where Tupac and his entourage were attending a Mike Tyson boxing match. Tupac and his crew attacked Anderson, who was reportedly beaten in the altercation. And so we're going to hear about Orlando as well in this timeline.
Orlando.
So what happened on September 7th? So on September 7th, 1996, Mike Tyson fought Bruce Seldon at the MGM Grand Garden Arena in Las Vegas.
Mike Tyson is involved in this
Yeah,
too?
everyone's involved.
Who was
Because Mike
like,
Tyson
what?
and Tupac became buddies. Tupac used to visit Mike Tyson in prison. Mike Tyson's in jail. He gets out of jail, and this fight is
Mike Tyson was in jail?
Yeah. And this is
Wait, is Mike Tyson the one who built off that guy's ear?
Yeah.
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 And he's now a talk show.
So Mike Tyson had just gotten out of jail, and so this fight was sort of like his big return to heavyweight prominence. Tyson wins, like, in a technical knockout in the first round. So he wins his heavyweight championship in, like, it was like a minute or something.
Yeah.
Okay. So Tupac attends this heavyweight boxing match. The match ends very early because it's just like a total knockout in
Boom,
the first
boom.
round.
Yeah.
And everyone exits into the MGM lobby. And then the Orlando Anderson kerfuffle occurs. So I referenced that where Tupac
Kerfuffle.
Tupac recognizes him in the MGM lobby.
Yeah.
And there's all these videos on, like, the surveillance of him and, like, others just, coming after Orlando. So then his bodyguard gets him out and they go back to their hotel to change. And then they decide to head to this club. It's Suge's Club, Club 662. And that's where everyone's going to go hang out. They're going to have a big party with all their famous buddies. So Tupac and Suge go change and they leave to head out to this club. And there are paparazzi shots of them in the car together at 10:55. They're in one car and they have an entourage following them. Tupac's bodyguard said that as they were leaving the Lexer, Tupac hands him the keys to his car and says, I'm going to ride with Suge, but we're going to be drinking. So you drive behind me and you can DD us. Well, he's passenger princessing.
Okay.
But Tupac is. He's passenger princessing, but his bodyguard is not in the car with him. His bodyguard is following in a car because it sounds like the plan was like, hey, when we all get too drunk, you're going to be chauffeuring us home. So 11:10 p.m. is when this shooting occurs. So they're on the Las Vegas Strip at the intersection of Flamingo Road and Caval Lane. The Unsolved Mysteries episode I watched recently, that's from the 90s, says that they were like chatting up two girls. That's like mostly the story, but there's another documentary that kind of describes a different setup. Regardless, it sounds like there was someone from Suge's entourage in front of them, which was rare, and then Tupac is in the passenger seat, Suge is driving, Tupac's security's behind him, and then on the they're allegedly speaking to these girls out the driver's side window who are like, where's the party at? And then a white Cadillac pulls up.
Oh God.
The passenger side and opens fire.
Oh my gosh.
Tupac is shot in the chest, hip, and hand. Suge had a temple graze. He pulls a U-turn back up Las Vegas Boulevard before the car breaks down. So there's a lot of sources that Tupac's last words were "fuck you," directed towards one of the officers who was attempting to save him.
Oh wow.
But I don't know if that's really for real.
Yeah.
And so again, he undergoes multiple surgeries over the next 6 days before eventually dying. Sounds like of a pulmonary embolism. And it actually sounds like he was resuscitated multiple times. And then his mom showed up and his mom was like, listen,
Stop.
Enough. Yeah. She said something more philosophical than that, but I can't remember it. So anyway, mom comes up and is like, let him go. So on the 13th of September, he dies. Snoop was actually supposed to be with him in Vegas, but Tupac and he had a fight because there had been an interview like 2 days before where the radio DJ or whoever was like, would you ever record a song with Puffy or Biggie? And Snoop was like, sure, I would. And then Tupac felt like he wasn't supporting him, and so he cut him off. But so Snoop was supposed to be with him at this fight. Snoop didn't come because Tupac was having a little tantrum. But Snoop did come to Vegas and go visit him.
Snoop Dogg?
Yeah, everyone's in this.
Oh my God.
So a couple of the weird things.
Snoop.
But even like in the old documentaries, like when they have interviews of like in the 90s, he still seems like
He's
such a nice guy.
Yeah.
He like doesn't, everyone's like talking trash and he's just like sitting there and like, yeah, what a guy.
You know, Snoop Dogg, type 9.
You know what?
When you watch him, I'm like, God, he's such a type 9.
I will say Snoop did say that he was dating his now wife and he was hanging out with Tupac and all these other guys and he just had a fight with his wife and they were all like, drop that girl, da 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 da. And Tupac was like, you better marry that girl. Don't listen to these guys.
Oh.
And then he went on to marry her and now they got grandkids. And were you also the one who told me that he goes,
he dresses up in costumes,
so that he doesn't steal the show.
Yeah,
his grandkids
from his grandkids.
Cute.
Yeah, always with like a mask.
Like a lovely man.
I know.
So weird things that had happened with like on this whole timeline, I guess, just like abnormal things when we get to our conversation. So Tupac had 5 bodyguards that would rotate. They had like a 2-on, 2-off shift. There were always 3 bodyguards on duty. And the day of his death, there had been a security meeting at noon in which his bodyguards were told not to be armed, that they were to leave their weapons in their rooms. They actually left their weapons in their cars, but again, now they're not in their cars.
This is suspicious.
The guard or his bodyguard said, we had never before been told not to be armed. They also usually carry radios with each other, but his one bodyguard had been on vacation. So the temp had his radio. So that got left behind in LA. Long story short, there were no radios. So it's like an abnormal situation. He also had this one security guard who was following him.
Yeah.
But again, he should have had 3 on him. Well, they had sent the other 21 security guards that Death Row Records had brought with them ahead to the club to pre-position.
Oh my God.
So now they just have 1 security guard for Suge and Tupac. That's
wow.
Really abnormal. Tupac was almost always armed, but he was not armed that night. He also was becoming more paranoid, so he was always wearing a flak jacket, was not wearing any kind of, bulletproof vest this time. Again, allegedly, Tupac's final words were F you to a cop. So then when they're trying to figure out what happened, like nobody would talk to the police. That made things more challenging. And they didn't secure the scene because the shooting happened and then the car took off. And so there was and any like pedestrian cops or anything led to the scene where the car was. So there was no securing the actual scene where the gunshot had been fired. That makes sense. And then there was a backup singer in the car behind Tupac, Yafu Fula, and he told police at the scene, he said, "Give me a lineup I could point to the person who shot Tupac."
Whoa.
But you know what?
They never did that.
They took his contact info. They said, "We'll be in touch." They sent him on his way. 2 months later, shot and killed in New Jersey.
Oh,
One witness who said he could, identify the shooter, the perpetrator. And then Orlando, that Crip that he had the altercation with, he also dies 18 months after the fact. But then Colleen,
I'm listening.
You were shocked to hear that Biggie is no longer alive. So 6 months after this happened, Notorious B.I.G. is killed after attending a Soul Train Music Awards after party in Los Angeles.
Like, who's taking them all out?
Well, that's the question. Interestingly, after all this happened, Death Row Records owed Tupac as much as $9 million. He had less than $100,000 in the bank when he died. He had fulfilled his obligation to Death Row because, again, it was like I will get you out of jail if you give us 3 albums, right? So he did his 3 albums. He was like, I'm done. He wanted to own his masters.
Mm-hmm.
Does this sound familiar?
Yeah.
Well, I want to own my own music.
Okay.
And
we love Tay.
He wanted to start his own record company. And so apparently Suge was like wooing him and trying to keep him with the record label. But Afeni, his mom, Afeni actually sued Death Row Records and was able to get 400 tracks that Tupac had written before he died, like had recorded before he died.
Mm-hmm.
And she was able to release several albums after he had passed.
And like,
oh, okay. Yeah.
Like, is she getting the money?
Well, so she did, but she put most of the money into she created like a foundation, and I think she built like a community arts center for children in Atlanta, and she did a lot of good things with
Did Tupac ever
I stan Afeni.
Mm-hmm. Did Tupac ever what?
have children?
No. I think there was some rumor that he might have had one kid, but didn't.
How old was he when he died?
25.
25.
So young.
One would say the average lifespan of an ancient Egyptian.
Well, I was like less. Oh yeah, that is right, of a man.
Yeah.
One could say that.
One could. Yeah.
Okay, so the theories. Number 1, did he fake it?
No.
No way.
So after he died, there were immediate theories that he had faked his death. There's this theory they call the 7-day theory, and it refers to the idea that Tupac Shakur, using his alias Machiavelli, might have planned his own death as a way to escape his turbulent life. So he had recorded this album that was going to be released before he died. So it got released a couple months after he died, and it was called The Don Columinati.
The
Whoa.
Don Columinati.
The Don Columinati, the 7-day theory.
Wait, Don as in D-A-W-N.
D-O-N.
D-O-N.
And then Illuminati with the K at the beginning. Columinati. The 7-day theory. It was released under the pseudonym Machiavelli, which apparently Machiavelli had like faked his own death.
Uh-huh.
So then that was this theory that like why this pseudonym, even though apparently that was like always the plan. He just thought it'd be like a fun thing to do.
Oh, okay.
Or did he know?
Well, that's the question. And then because the title is the 7-day theory, he shot on September 7th. It was like kind of 6 days, but like on the 7th day is when he actually died. There were 7 bullet holes on the cover of the album, and the music dealt with a lot of themes of death and resurrection. So this kind of fueled this like, Tupac orchestrated his death. He's gonna like reemerge later.
Oh, so people are really like, this is just like his context clues.
Yeah, but I think it's kind of like we talked about Diana too. That it's more likely it's just like hard for people to believe that this larger than life 25-year-old could just die.
Yeah.
Um,
It's like very like everyone is, mortal.
but you know what? Interestingly, his body was cremated the day after he died.
Oh, never cremate if
No.
you die of suspicious ways.
For real.
Never.
I feel like every time I watch a true crime documentary and they're like, and then the husband had her cremated, and you're like,
And you
he
boom.
did it.
Yeah.
All evidence gone.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Some of the outlaws actually claimed that they smoked his ashes on the beach.
Ew.
Oh.
But regardless, Afeni's like, and I think they had like a very public funeral set up
Yeah.
for like the fans, and then they like the record company was setting one up, and I think his mom was, and then they like canceled them both. So again, people were like, why are we canceling funerals? Is he not really dead? And then because Afeni got all these tracks, she was able to release all these albums, and so people were like, you guys claim he's dead, but like albums just keep coming out.
Right.
So Chuck D, who's an influential rapper and frontman of the pioneering hip-hop group Public Enemy, he, like a week after Tupac died, he released his list of reasons he thought Tupac was still alive.
Ooh.
He does say he talked to Afeni like 3 weeks later, and he no longer believes that Tupac is really alive. But I just wanted to share some of his reasons with you, okay?
Okay.
Tupac died on Friday the 13th. Says Las Vegas is a payoff city, meaning all sorts of folks have been known to be on the take, doctors, press, lawyers, etc. The white Cadillac containing the assailants was never found. How could this be when Vegas is in the middle of a desert? Pretty much he's saying there's not a lot of black people in Vegas, and how did these like the attackers were black. This is only an A-block strip. How could no one identify him? Why was there no chase and no witnesses? I guess on the cover of his next album, too, it was a picture of Tupac looking a little bit like Jesus Christ.
Oof.
And so was he planning a resurrection?
Yeah.
How about he's like Las Vegas or how come there was no helicopter chase? If someone was to rob a casino, the Vegas police would have chased him down, and there'd have been like helicopters that have been crazy, but why was there none of that for Tupac? I told you about the rapid cremation. There were no ballistic tests.
No ballistic tests?
Nope. Vegas they were again pretty much a mob town. So
it definitely sounds like somebody paid him off, was paid off to do it.
Why did Tupac get shot all those times and Suge just got grazed by a bullet?
Right, I thought about that too when you said that.
And then there's rumors like Tupac apparently was like talking incoherent, and then he like wasn't, and then it's 6 days, and then he dies. And so they're just like, how could he have been so coherent and then he died? But we know that could happen.
Yeah.
He had all these movies and albums coming out, and it says Suge Knight and Tupac are the only music industry people on that high of a profile with enough balls to pull off a stunt like fake death. He had music videos that foretold his death. I told you he always wore a bulletproof vest, but he wasn't wearing one. And again, memorial services were canceled. Initially, people were coming out with like a lot of sightings as well. In 97, he was apparently seen in Guam at a local bar, never substantiated. In 98, there were reports that he was in Cuba, in Havana. And then there were also reports that Matulu Shakur, his stepdad, was seen there. So people were like, oh my gosh, maybe it's him. But again, we don't have any proof of that. In New Orleans, there was a man who resembled Tupac seen at a gas station. And he was acting strangely. And then in 2000s, he was allegedly seen in Vegas. But none of these have been substantiated. So I don't really put much credibility into that.
I feel like if there wasn't HIPAA, we'd have like
more answers.
Yeah, I'm sure.
I'm just shocked there was no ballistics
like,
done.
Coded him over and over again. Would be able to tell us he died.
And then there's a couple of, I guess, people have also tried to interpret his music to say that like, oh, it's. But when I'm reading these, I don't. Maybe I'm just not a poet. I don't really make that jump. Like, in Two of America's Most Wanted featuring Snoop Dogg, from All Eyes on Me in 96. He says, I got my mind on my money and my money on my mind. Fans speculate that these lyrics reflect his ongoing plans and focus. So he might have been plotting something significant, like faking his own death. I'm like, what? I don't know how you could make that jump from I got my mind on my money and
Yeah,
my
I
money
got my
on my
mind on my money and my
money
money on my mind. Yeah, no.
He has a lot. I see death around the corner. I know that's where I'm headed. So I'm like, okay, so he knew he.
Sounds like he was a little paranoid.
Like living his
I do
life.
think he was a little paranoid. Yeah, like none of this tells me like anyway. There's all these examples, like none of them are telling me, oh yeah, he was planning to fake his death.
Yeah.
There is at the opening of the first song on the album that came out after he died, Bomb First. There's like it sounds like someone's talking in the background and says Suge shot me. So then that came out as like a
Oh yeah.
but I found a YouTube video where someone had found that same clip in a Daft Punk music video from the year prior.
Oh.
And so it's like probably just like what do you call them? These audio clips that anyone has access
Right,
to.
yeah.
So probably doesn't mean anything. I mean, my assessment is that I think he did seem like he had some mania.
Yeah.
And I think he was having delusions of grandiosity. I mean,
Yeah.
he's like portrayed himself as Jesus.
Yeah.
It is giving Diana a little.
How so?
Yeah.
Wasn't she going crazy?
Oh, we thought she was having a little but I don't feel like in the same way.
No, but like
No, yeah.
it's, like
She was getting
interesting.
paranoid, but I feel like
Yeah.
he just was thinking like, and like I don't know if he faked his death. This whole person, what I gather of his personality, I just don't know if I can. It's kind of like what do we talk about? Where we're like, could you? Oh, Hitler. When we're like, could he just like disappear and shut up?
Right.
And like,
no,
like,
no.
he would have to. Yeah, we would have seen him by now.
Right.
Instead of hearing just shut up.
Yeah. And then, people also said that when he was filming movies, he would really like try to turn into these characters. So I don't think he just when I watch these documentaries and it's like clips of him when he's like 17, he looks like just like such a theater kid.
That's
Yeah.
so
So-
funny.
I think he just has like an artist soul.
Well, I just don't think that like I thought a lot of these rappers, I mean, I guess what do I know? But I'm like, I don't know that they're really that into like gang life. Like I feel like he was just like an artsy kid. Maybe he was trying to like he was playing a gangster in an upcoming movie. So was he getting too much into that role? Also, I just think you have a lot of money and all of a sudden people are just like taking hits out on each other because they just are like they have all this money. But mostly he just seems like he didn't take a hit out on people, but in general, I'm just like looking at gangster rap.
Yeah.
And I'm like, you guys just seem like a bunch of artists. Who,
Bunch
like,
of poets.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Afeni did say, someone said, how do you feel about people thinking he's alive? It used to bother me in a lot of ways. It still does bother me because on one hand, it's, it's irrational. And at some point you have to deal with rationality. However, I was speaking to some students at a college in the South. It was just packed. And I always ask, are there any questions? And this question came up and I said, it's ridiculous. And why would I be? And then this young girl in the back held her hand up and called on her and said, Ms. Shakur, I respect you and I appreciate what you just said. But if they have Elvis, why can't we have Tupac? And you know what? I had no answer for her. So in that sense, I get it. I don't have anything to say. So again, I think it's just like someone everyone idolized, a young star who just like passes unexpectedly.
Yeah.
And people can
just like confabulate with,
Exactly.
Yeah. I definitely, I mean, I feel like what Colleen said, like if that nurse could really
sure
talk,
it's
she'd probably be
yeah.
like,
I mean, it sounds like
his face was twice its size. Like,
and I'm sure his mom, like, that's probably the trauma she holds.
yeah.
Because she saw him in that moment. Is she still alive?
No. So she died, I think, at age 69. So we all agree.
Young.
None of us are thinking
No,
he's
No.
actually alive.
he has passed on to the afterlife.
Say that it sounds like when the 7-year anniversary came and went and he did not reveal himself.
Yeah.
It seems like that's when a lot of these theories kind of started to die down.
Like,
Yeah, they were like,
maybe
yeah.
he's not actually.
Yeah.
Other potential causes, it could be an inside job, right? I would say that initially when I was investigating, I was very suspicious of Suge, but I don't think that Suge was really involved now. Tupac's bodyguard did say that Suge took an odd route that night, but he doesn't, Frank, the bodyguard, does not believe it was Suge. He said Suge seemed surprised to learn of all the weird security issues, like how no one was armed and
Yeah.
and he was really emotionally distraught when Tupac died. Also, he was shot again. Like, I don't listen. It kind of goes like how people and some people thought that Trump had orchestrated this assassination attempt.
And it's like,
And I'm like, you got grazed, so like, yeah, that's miraculous, but to trust
he also
somebody,
got like grazed in the temple.
like, yeah, to trust someone that much, like, you can't be a centimeter off.
Yeah.
I just can't believe Suge would be like, and just like graze my head.
Right.
And
Yeah,
it'd be good. So I don't believe that. I think that it sounds like Suge was trying to get him to stay with his record company, and he's like bringing in all this money. So what would be his motivation to kill Tupac? It seems
Yeah,
like
there'd
he
be no
wants him.
motivation.
Oh yeah, that was my thing. Yeah, because you just stopped the music, therefore stopped the money.
Yeah.
So I was against that theory too.
Yeah. So again, I told you Tupac wanted to start his own label, Euthanasia, and so some people are like, well, Suge, that was going to lose Suge money, but again, he's not making any money
With him dead.
now. Yeah. And then there were some theories, since we're talking about like an inside job, that maybe Snoop would have been involved.
No.
Wow.
Never Snoop Dogg.
Again, because he didn't support him when he said he'd record with Drake.
No.
He did bring in Tupac. This is like Snoop Dogg brought Tupac in, but was Snoop like Tupac ended up being a bigger deal at that time than Snoop. So was he resentful? I told you that everything I saw, he's even in his younger years, he still just looks like such a good guy. And as I mentioned, he is a national treasure.
Yes.
So we're just gonna
Don't mess with
No.
not dig any
Snoopy
deeper into that one.
D-O-double-G. He is the nation's.
To be honest, I
Our
don't know if I
nations.
could name a single
Our
Snoop Dogg song.
I was going
I
to say
can name
Danny, but
songs
that's
he's
not the right
featured
word.
on. What's a Snoop Dogg song? I only know ones he's featured on.
When the pimp's in the crib, ma, drop it like it's hot. Drop it like it's
I know that
hot.
song.
Drop it like it's hot.
Sipping on gin and
Sipping on gin and juice.
juice.
Oh.
With my mind on my money and my money on my mind.
Yeah.
I love Snoop.
The Snoopy D-O-double-G.
I'm gonna listen to Snoop on my ride home.
Okay. So sounds like you guys are with me. We're definitely not buying that Snoop's involved. And
No.
we don't really think Suge did it either, right?
No.
Okay. So then there's a question about the East Coast, West Coast rivalry. So, Colleen, let me educate you here.
Okay.
So hip hop originated in New York City on the East Coast.
Is this for like West Coast?
Yeah, East Coast, West Coast. Hip hop originated in New York City on the East Coast. So they are like, obviously, we are the number one at hip hop. Like, right? It's us.
Jay-Z.
In the late 80s, West Coast hip hop kind of is up on the rise. So Suge Knight and Dr. Dre founded Death Row Records in LA. I think that Snoop Dogg might own Death Row Records now. In the meantime, Puff Daddy is starting his label,
Ooh.
Bad Boy Records. And again, sounds like B.I.G. goes to Tupac, and Tupac's like, go to Puffy, and so he ends up with Puff. So there was always this East Coast, West Coast feud, which was really fueled by it was really Bad Boy Records versus Death Row Records. So Puff Daddy denied being involved in the Quad Studio shooting. That's the one in New York City when Tupac was recording. But Tupac publicly accused him. In February of 95, a few months after the shooting, Biggie released Who Shot Ya, which Tupac interpreted as a taunt. There's a line, didn't I tell you not to fuck with me? Can't talk with a gun in your mouth, huh? Later that year, Suge Knight was an award ceremony, and he said, any artist out there that wants to be an artist and want to stay a star and don't want to have to worry about the executive producer trying to be in all the videos, on all of the records, dancing, come to Death Row. So that's a dig at Puff Daddy, who was just trying to like get famous off his rappers. Then there was a lot of back and forth. Like every time one of them won, they'd get up and they'd like slam the other side. Dr. Dre and Snoop were both booed by East Coast rappers. Puffy gets up. He makes a plea to end the East Coast, West Coast drama. Also, Tupac wasn't very nice at this point. Again, we think he's such a nice guy. He was not very nice about Faith Evans, which was Biggie's estranged wife. She's on the song we talked about with Puff Daddy.
Mm-hmm.
He claimed that like they had a romantic relationship. It hit him up, which was released after the shooting. Like, again, they're just back and forth in their rap. And he alleged that he banged Biggie's wife, and she's like, that never happened.
Yeah. He's got some delusions happening.
So 5 months after the shooting, Snoop and Puffy hold a press conference to end the feud. And Snoop says, because we love Snoop, right?
Yeah.
Snoop says, kids around the world are watching. By calling for a truce, we are giving them something to live for.
Oh,
What an icon.
we love Snoop.
A month later, Biggie's gunned down in LA.
Oh no.
That death also remains unsolved, but Suge Knight is alleged to have been involved, or perhaps some think the LAPD officers. Again, could be a whole other podcast on Biggie.
Yeah, Biggie deserves a
It
whole
seems
other
like,
podcast.
but it does seem like now, and Biggie was associated with the Crips, so again, it goes back. So it's like, was it gang related? Was it East Coast, West Coast? But it sounds like all of the beef has been squashed. So, do we think that like East Coast, West Coast rivalry was like enough for someone to kill someone else?
I mean, it's very suspicious that a white Cadillac pulled up, opens fire, and then is never seen again.
Mm-hmm.
Sounds like Tupac had an enemy. Whoever that enemy was remains to be unseen because we don't know.
Do we know
But-
if he had like drugs in his system? Was he
Oh.
related in like a drug activity and that could have gotten him killed or something? You know what I mean?
I don't know. I don't know if Snoop or if Tupac did drugs besides the Mary Jane.
The
I
Besides
know he
the-
said he woke up and he did pot every morning. But
Besides the blueberry yum yum.
so the last theory was it gang related. So Dwayne Keefy D Davis, he calls
Okay.
himself Keefy D,
Keefy D.
is a significant figure. So he is a member of the South Side Crips gangs.
Okay.
He had he's been widely discussed
Southside.
with this case.
Yep.
In recent years, he's made various statements about his involvement in the case, adding to speculation. So it sounds like he thought he had immunity. He thought he was far enough out. So hey guys, don't commit a crime and then tell the cops without running it by your lawyer.
Right,
Okay.
right.
So
That's like criminal 101, Megan.
mm-hmm. So
Smart criminal 101.
but I think he wrote a book and he was trying to sell it. He was trying to pull a little like O.J. Simpson,
Oh,
profiting off his crime.
yeah.
So in 2018, Keefy D openly discussed his knowledge of the events surrounding the murder in interviews and a book. He claimed that he was in the car from which the shots were fired that killed Tupac. He has suggested his nephew, Orlando Anderson, this is who the kerfuffle was,
Yeah.
was the one who actually pulled the trigger. Anderson, as I mentioned, was a suspect, but he was never charged, and then he died. I will say one of my issues with this is that there's a couple of situations where like it's always like the dead guy, right? Like
Right, I was gonna say it's a little clean.
like there was some interview where they were like, did anybody from Tupac's entourage return fire? And then the guy's like, well, I guess I can tell you this because he's dead, but one person returned fire. And it's like, really, one person pulled out a gun and that one person happens to be dead. And so isn't this tidy? Yes. to just, like,
Right. A little clean.
So now we're going to blame this guy who's dead. It's kind of tidy. But Keefy's been incarcerated since last September and he's been denied bail. So this trial is pending. He's going to go on trial in November.
Wow.
For the Tupac shooting?
Well, accessory, I guess.
So
Wow.
there was a 2.5-hour secret police interview that was recorded last year that led to his arrest for the murder of Tupac. And so here's what he alleges in that recording happened. He has pled not guilty, but here's what we have. So he says Puff Daddy was in Anaheim after a concert.
That's California.
Yeah.
Is that California? Okay.
And he makes this announcement to the room at large, in which Keefy D was present. I will give anything to anyone who takes out Tupac and Suge. Then Keefy says that there was a second interaction between just him and Puff Daddy. And at that point, Puff Daddy said, take out a hit, I'll pay you. Like, I'm taking out a hit, I'll pay you $1 million.
What?
It was a hitman situation?
So,
Puffy?
Oh, and actually, Keefy says that he might have been like, he was like, I'll pay you to do it. And Keefy's like, will you pay me $1 million? And he's like, yeah. And they shook on it. And that was the deal. Okay.
Whoa.
But Keefy says that like, he really wasn't that. It was kind of like a conversation that happened. But he's like, honestly, I wasn't about to like go out and kill him.
Right.
But this was this discussion we had. So again, Keefy D says that Puff Daddy's motivation here was just to eliminate the competition. And, so we have like Suge Knight and Tupac are with our rival record label. We've got the East Coast, West Coast rivalry. And like, too much competition. They said that Puffy wanted to be friends with Tupac and Tupac was not interested. So anyway, this whole thing happens. Then Keefe says that he goes to the match. He drives to Vegas for the match in a rented Buick Century, and he meets up with his nephew Orlando Anderson and his buddies, who are in a rented white Cadillac.
Oh my God.
Oh
Of course
my
it's a
gosh.
rental. Keefe D's at dinner during that whole kerfuffle
Right.
in the MGM lobby. He says that actually he's eating at the MGM, and like a bunch of people come up and they're like telling him about it. And so he claims that after this attack, they're like, you know what? This is the perfect time. He's here. We got an offer of $1 million. Let's go do this.
Oh my God.
So
Damn.
Keefe's
$1 million actually doesn't seem like that much
But
money
back
to
then-
kick
some of
somebody
these too,
out.
though, where it's like for 10 grand or whatever.
Yeah.
Like you took that?
Yeah.
That seems absurd.
Right.
Keefe's friend Zip gives him a gun. They're driving up Flamingo. They saw Tupac hanging out the window, and Keefe says, again, let's like just make this as clean for him as possible, right? He says, "Oh, I thought I saw Tupac reach for something. I thought it could be a gun, so I hit the floor
Oh,
of the car, so I didn't see it or anything, nor was I involved in anything."
of course.
Of course. He said shooting started allegedly someone from Death Row Records returned fire, which again we know is like now they're saying, oh,
That's the dead
person.
guy. Yeah.
There were some girls in a white red top Seabreeze that actually followed them when they took off, the shooters, but the Keefe turned around, shot out their front windshield, and then they were like, F that.
Yeah.
Right?
I'm not doing this.
So then he says he went back to Puff Daddy's assistant and said, you guys owe me $1 million. And they said, yeah, we got you. But they never actually made the payment. So then people are like, did this really happen? Or is this all hit? Like this Puff Daddy,
Right.
is this all made up?
Also very like suspicious that it's coming out right now, right?
Mm-hmm. Well, so this all happened before
Before the
Puff
raid.
Daddy drop.
Yeah.
So Puff Daddy also, though,
He's in
I
it.
always thought he was sort of a poser. This is so like what do I know? Okay, I was not into hip hop at this time in my life. I mean, not into hip hop now. And like, I mean, I am the opposite of whatever these people experienced growing up, right? Like, I didn't grow up in like an impoverished, inner city place with one parent or my parents in jail or whatever. So what do I know? But I always thought that Puff Daddy just seemed like a little soft, like a little. I think again, like, are they all?
I always thought that too.
Are they all
Puffy wasn't like he was a pretty boy.
Yeah,
Pretty boy.
yeah, like Dayton J-Lo. But you know what? What do we know? Because he has an extensive record starting in '95 with a charge for criminal mischief. He's had some like allegations of assault against like record label executives.
Wow.
In '99, a woman claimed that Diddy shot her in the face in a nightclub. He was acquitted of all charges. And a rapper that he was with actually served time, but the victim maintains that like it was Puff Daddy that shot her.
Wow.
He's had multiple convictions for assault. And then in 2017, his former personal chef sued him for working long hours without overtime pay and forced her to feed him and his guests immediately post-coitus while they were still undressed. And
That's
he
funny.
settled for an undisclosed amount.
Yeah, I believe that.
Not innocent. And then there's another producer who claimed that Puff Daddy and his, I interchangeably in my notes wrote Diddy and Puffy and Daddy, like Puff Daddy and P. Diddy. And he's had so many names over the
Yeah,
years.
he has. Yeah.
That this producer Lil Rod claims that Puff Daddy and his son shot his son's friend G in the abdomen and leg in an LA recording studio, and then G has since disappeared. And so Lil Rod is claiming that Puff Daddy is like orchestrated a whole cover up of that. And then in 2023, his ex-girlfriend, who he dated when she was 19 and he was 37 for 2 years.
Ew.
She comes out to allege that Puff Daddy had raped her. He had forced her to engage in acts with other males. He beat her. There was like that awful video that came out.
Right.
And so she accused him of blowing up Kid Cudi's car. She said he forced her to take substances. He dangled her friend over the balcony, which is very much like Vanilla Ice's story about
Right.
Suge,
yeah.
So anyway, this lawsuit got settled the same day it was filed, out of court for undisclosed amount of money. But this triggered all these other lawsuits that have come forward, which now we have these allegations of rape and trafficking. And we know that in March of this year, DHS raided several homes in LA and Miami linked to Puff Daddy. in relation to the trafficking investigation. So again, I think these people, it's like you don't do anything for yourself, but all of a sudden you got a lot of money. So I would have never thought that Puff Daddy had the balls to do this, but it's got quite a, we're learning all this awful
Mafia.
stuff about him.
Mafia.
So anyway, so that's where we are. So it sounds like this was probably gang related. This is probably an ego from Puff Daddy
It's
fighting.
some sort of dispute related. I don't know if gang related, dispute related, probably.
Okay, maybe dispute, because I mean they were different
Gangs.
Suge was a Blood. This guy was a Crip, but it sounds like mostly it was like Tupac embarrassed this guy in the MGM lobby, so they took him out. Puff Daddy I mean, honestly, there's not a lot of evidence that Puff Daddy actually took out this hit,
Right.
except that we know he's a bad guy now.
Right.
Long story short, I don't think he's still alive.
Long story short, it was a long night. I told you, I think that it was dispute related, and I would be very interested to see if Puff Daddy has anything interesting. Like, that is an interesting spin.
Colleen, did we teach you anything today?
A lot about the hip hop, but I didn't realize
Community?
how connected it all was. Yeah, everybody has so many names.
Notorious B.I.G., Biggie,
Tupac.
Biggie Smalls.
Yeah.
That's one person, right? Tupac is always Tupac. It's just the number two.
Right.
He just seemed to be like there.
But Puff Daddy, Puff Daddy, Sean Puffy Combs.
Right. Diddy.
Yeah.
Puffy.
All right, Colleen, you agree that it was probably just, are you buying this guy's story?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm
There's more
interested.
to it,
And
but-
I mean, yeah, I definitely am like, you really hit the ground. You really hit the floor.
There's no way. Yeah, they were all.
One person-
After you said you'd take $1 million.
I'm like, and they're all young in their 20s.
Yeah, they weren't thinking about
it's like
this.
only one person returned fire, but he's dead. So
They were all-
it was the only one.
Yeah.
Oh, one person, Orlando's the one who shot him, but because Orlando's dead, so we can put that
Blame
on
him,
him.
yeah.
Like they were probably all young kids, not thinking about the actual consequences.
Well, their frontal lobes were not even fully
Yeah.
developed by the time Colleen, your frontal lobe just developed.
I know.
Tupac
It's like
was,
I can feel it.
Tupac was younger than you.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
And a man. And they go slower.
Yeah.
And so that's what people say too, that I think at the end he was getting a little like rough around the edges, but like who would he have ended up being? We don't know. He
End
didn't
of
get
the
a chance.
story is
Right.
his mom and Snoop Dogg were pretty great.
Yeah.
Slash are pretty great.
Mm-hmm.
Afeni and
Mhm.
Snoop.
Snoop.
There
there
was
it is.
also
The unsung heroes.
I feel like if Tupac lived today, I feel like he'd go back into acting.
well, I think he seemed, I mean, obviously he was a poet, but he seemed like before, like when he was in
Major
Baltimore,
actor.
he was an actor.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And he definitely there was there's all these clips of him getting interviewed in California, and he's yeah, he just looks like a little theater kid. He's like, I like to do theater, I like to do plays.
That's so cute.
Yeah, I could see him. I mean, I could have seen him doing that again.
Oh.
Sad.
In the 2 hours of conversation that we've had, that Colleen has been schooled on Tupac.
Yeah. In my
Like,
She can see him doing plays.
all right, guys. Okay, what should people do?
Scroll on down, leave us a comment, leave us a 5-star review. Share us with your friends and family. Share us on your social media platforms. And as always, thank you for supporting the pod.
Yeah, Colleen's off to Disney World. She's going to educate us on some Disney conspiracies when she comes back. Otherwise, guys, see you next Tuesday.
See you next.
See ya next Tuesday.